So as CTO Larson pointed out, and if you guys aren't following him, excellent content over here, he basically breaks down one of the most interesting models mathematically done that I've seen, comparing all of these previous parabolas, pre-halving and post-halving, and what he was able to come up with was absolutely mind-blowing. And before you even watch this clip, I want you to remember that this is just based on numbers. It's not even considering the supply shock and demand and chaos mode that I just showed you.
We will now analyze what happened before the halving and what happened after the halving. Then we will switch to this chart. The first parabola didn't have any halving, so here we don't have any data. But the second parabola did, and the gain was 6x before the halving over 376 bars, 6x over 376 bars, and after the halving it was 96x over 367 bars, 367 days. And now you already saw something interesting. The part of the parabola that was before the halving and the part that was after the halving was almost exactly the same number of days. The second part you see is that the pump after the halving was bigger than the pump before the halving. Now let's see what happened with the other halvings. Let's move to the second halving, which happened in parabola number 3. Price appreciation before the halving was plus 300%, meaning 4x over 542 days, 542. Post-halving gain was 29x over 526 days, 526. Interesting! The pump before the halving and the pump after the halving was almost exactly the same length. And again, the gains after the halving was bigger than the gains before the halving. Let's move to the third halving in parabola number 4. Gains 2.7x before the halving over 513 days, 513. Gains after the halving until end 2021 was 700% or 8x over 548 days. Again, the number of days before the halving and the number of days after the halving, where the parabola was intact, where we had an ongoing pump, was exactly the same before the halving and after the halving. And again, the gain after the halving was significantly bigger than before the halving. Okay. Let's move to parabola number 5 and the fourth halving that will come soon. The estimated days vary a little bit between services, April 20, some say April 22, doesn't matter exactly, but it will be somewhere around the 20th of April 2024. And that is very soon. We are in this parabola today. Of course, we don't know exactly what slope it should have, but if it is something like this, and of course we can modify it as we get closer. From the bottom to the halving is 3.5x over 516 days. 516. And now you see something similar. The duration this time from the bottom until the halving is practically exactly the same as in the previous two parabolas. And the gain before the halving was very similar to the previous two. In fact, it's probably exactly the average of these two. Now let's add one column here, and that is gain post divided by gain pre. So how much more after the halving did price gain compared to before the halving? So the first time it was 16 times more, second time 29 divided by 4, it was 7 times more. Next time it was 8 divided by 2.7, it was 3 times more. So as you can see here, the extremeness of the difference has dropped by about a factor 2 each time. So let's assume that it drops again by a factor 2, that we get 1.5 times the pre-halving after the halving. So 3.5x times 1.5 times 5.25x. Days, what should the day be? This is like one of those IQ tests where you should answer what's in the box. Since these have been so similar every single time, I think we just assume that the length will be the same. So 516 days. So according to this model, after the halving, we could get a 5.25x pump over another 516 days. So where do we end up then? So what was it now? 5.25 times. That is 425%, 425% over 516 days, 425% over 516 days. That would take us to 300K September 18, 2025. $300,000 in September 2025. And then an 80% correction, which would take price back to 60,000, which would make a lot of sense since that's approximately the current all-time high resistance level.